What's up, everybody? We are here in my new favorite room at Blade Show, the Spyderco meeting room, with Eric Glesser. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to see what's new in Spyderco.
Right on. I'm excited to show you. All right, so I'm going to jump into the Sage 5. This comes in a compression lock. This has not been revealed, but it gave me the opportunity to talk about MagnaCut. So I'm going to jump into this one.
Okay, I want to hear this, because you know a lot more about steel than I ever will. So.
Well, MagnaCut is a wonderful steel. You're seeing more and more of it in the knife industry. One of the things that we tried to highlight at Spyderco is its corrosion resistance, its ability to work without rusting. And so we added it to our salt line. Our salt line is a number of knives that are damn near completely rust free. Yes, anything can rust over time, but these things can really take a beating on on corrosion resistance. And for the Salt 5, it's the MagnaCut that we used for our Salt series in that piece. But for MagnaCut, it's an incredibly balanced steel. You've probably heard me talk about balanced steels before. That's probably one of the reasons it's so popular. It's not the best at anything. It's not the best at edge retention. It's not the best in toughness. It's not the best in corrosion resistance like H2. But it is one of the most balanced steels ever produced. And that's why we highlight them so much in our Salt series. So if you're going to be around water, grab a Salt knife. I mean, they definitely will perform the best.
And one of my favorite things about Spyderco is not only do you have MagnaCut, but you took the time to milk everything out of it.
We did.
I know that a lot of brands out there have talked about how the heat treat's a little off or whatever, but you pick up a Spyderco, you know that is perfect MagnaCut.
Yeah, perfect heat treat, perfect fabrication, and then the other parts that we join it with. So when you look at that knife, incredibly well evolved. Screw together construction, blackened hardware, corrosive resistant materials, corrosion lock, bidirectional texturing, open construction. Look at that action. So isn't that a beauty? And that's on a salt knife.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's using a bushing system and a salt knife. We're really proud of that fact too. So yeah, if you're looking for a highly evolved piece, the Salt 5 alone, or the Sage 5 alone is one of the most evolved. And then you buy the Salt version, just a whole nother level.
Yeah, I love it. And if you aren't looking for that balanced steel, you want that most edge retention?
Yeah.
I mean, you make Maximum.
Yep, Rex 121 and a Sage 5. So now you
tell me more about that.
Now you want to outcut everything. Okay, well, Rex 121 is going to do that for you. And in the world of super steels, it's going to cut longer than anything. You know, you're looking at your Maximets, you're looking at your Rex 121s, the 15V, which we're really pushing to get a lot more of that down the pipe. Trust me, guys. But your Rex 121 is going to be one of the most edge retention, hardest steels in the market today.
Yeah, so I've looked into some Knife Steel Nerd stuff about this, and I see his edge retention charts, and usually Rex 121 is so far an outlier that sometimes it doesn't even make the chart. It just has so much edge retention.
So hard to fabricate too. First, thank you to Crucible and Niagara for even producing it in sheet. And trust me, it wasn't easy. Those guys are amazing at what they do over at Crucible and Niagara. But they made us some sheet, and then yeah, fabricating it into that shape is tough. When you think about, we're touching every single surface of that steel and shaping every surface of that steel. Doesn't matter if it's the jimping, the lock geometries, or the edge. You know, we have to shape that obstinate material.
Dang, and I mean, that wear resistance that gives you that perfect edge probably really fights you on the grinder.
Yeah. Oh, it does. On every aspect of manufacturing, it fights us. It does. It is a true fun steel to use, though, if you're looking for pure cutting.
Man, well, to all of your manufacturing staff, thank you for your sacrifice. We're grateful. But it's so fun to see that Rex 121 make its way into production folders.
And then we're pushing it on the Sage 5 one more time for the Spy 27.
Okay.
And so, yeah, talking balanced steels again, Spy 27. You know, it doesn't have your corrosion resistance as H1 and MagnaCut. It's not going to stay sharp quite as long as like an S30V or tough like a 3V. But when it comes to balance, it's one of the higher of all three. It has great edge retention, great toughness, great corrosion resistance, but not the best of anything. One of the things we do like about it, though, is it gets a nice polish, gets a thinner edge. It's got nice, clean grain structure. And then we match it with that cobalt blue, as we call it. And same with our Rex 121. We match it with that burnt orange. But yeah, we're taking that Sage 5 into a Spy 27 version as well.
Yeah, so I have a buddy over at work who does emails, and he recently got the Spy 27 Para 3, and he's slowly but methodically started selling off all of his other knives.
Oh,
he's like, never going back. I get it. I understand.
It is. It's a fun steel. It's fun to resharpen and cut and use and carry, and it's just, man, I mean, I hate to say it, but like MagnaCut, it's just a beautiful balance, and we're happy to do it. So
Yeah.
hats off to Crucible and Niagara for also producing Spy 27.
Yeah. So did you cook that steel up?
We worked with them on it. I'd have to say it's mostly my father. That was a lot of his idea. A lot of influence through Japan. VG10 was a big influence on that. The properties of what cobalt does and trying to make everything better and cleaner. And so that was, I guess, my dad's brainchild. He started working with Crucible on it, and that's the mix they came up with.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's awesome.
And then I wanted to highlight MagnaCut comes in other salts that are already being delivered today. So like the Manix 2, the Para 3, the Para 2, and a G10, really doing the MagnaCut. If you're looking for a salt, corrosion resistant knife, look at that salt. It is the best in the market.
Yeah. And by the way, I was talking to you just about this here. Tell the world how old you were when you designed this absolute bruiser.
I think I was in my early 20s, maybe 22. I'd have to look through my catalogs, but I think I did that when I was in my early 20s.
I'll tell you, it's not every day you meet somebody who at the age of 22 can design something as long-lasting as the
But now I'm starting to think it's the Manix 2. I did the Manix 1 when I was probably in my early 20s. I'd have to look at when the Manix 2 came out. So the Manix 1 was a big backlock version, and then we made the Manix 83 millimeter, which was also a backlock version. Then we took the Manix and the Manix 2, Manix 83 millimeter and made the Manix 2. So yeah, if you're looking at the historian stuff, the original Manix 2 backlock, I think I was in my early 20s. This one probably took a couple years later.
That's still really impressive. I'm about to join the 27 club when I get hit by a car in August, but
Jeez, don't do
I
that.
haven't designed anything that cool. I think I wrote a blog that was pretty good once, but that's it.
Also, I have to give my hats off to some of the engineers that work with us. We have employees that have been with us 10, 20, 30 years. Been fortunate enough to keep around a lot of our staff. And the gentleman that helped me work with this, his name's Doug, frankly. Great engineer to work with. Getting this ball lock to work the way we were trying to get it to work, I have to give a lot of credit to our engineering team as well. So, yeah.
It's a team effort.
Team effort.
And the Spyderco team is one of the best there is.
Thank you. I believe the same thing.
Yeah. Now, speaking of 10, 20, 30 years ago, this looks like a throwback.
Right. This is a throwback. I believe it came from the 90s. It's the Temperance model.
Okay.
Originally designed for self-defense. So it has a very large guard in the front, very large guard in the back. You're not going to slip up on this thing. Nice thumb push-off, generous blade stock, full flat, double distal taper. This one comes in crew wear. Gray, which if you know some of our crew wear gray series, it matches right in.
Stretch 2XL with that combo.
It is a sprint, so it'll come and go quick. Comes in plain serrated, though I don't have the serrated version here. Does have a trainer if somebody wants to do some training on it. The two features I really like about this, actually three features I think about, is one, it's contouring of the handle. Nicely round, nice expansions. When you go into reverse grip, it's got a great spot to cap your thumb. Some people want to, hold it this way. Sometimes they want to cap it. Really depends. The designer, which is my father, Sal, really likes to cap it in reverse because if you're jamming it, you're not going to slip up on it very easily. And then it has these divots in there, so if you're in regular, you can use the divots to reverse it.
Oh,
That's what those divots are.
kind of fun. It's like a fidget spinner. Hey, look at that.
Yeah, takes a little
Works
practice.
pretty well.
But yeah, not only does it give you additional grip with your fingers, but when you have to flip it, it makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, the Temperance, a throwback, a sprint, it will likely go quick.
If you like
Great
that, hop
crew
on
wear.
it. All right, and then we got some other stuff here.
Yes.
More on the Spy 27 train.
So yep, we have a whole family of Spy 27 coming along. We call that our Midnight Blue. It's a beautiful G10 color. Like your Rex colors, getting those G10s and those consistent colors across the board without any voids, getting that consistent peel ply and that rigidity, just beautiful G10 execution. And then that Spy 27, your classic military too. So compression lock, four-way clip, enlarged lanyard, screw together construction. It's really a nice evolution of the original military, which was a liner lock. It is one of our flagship pieces and one of our flagship steels. So it's a beautiful combination.
Yep, and then it looks like we got a Stretch 2XL here.
Still pushing some new grade steel. So you have your Stretch 2XL. This is going to come with no liners in it. So if you're used to your Enduras and your Delicas, a lot of the lightweights that we come out of Japan, this is going to be very light because it's linerless, but it still has that strength. So we put the inserts into the handle, keep it really lightweight. But with that back lock, it's got great self-close, good action, solid lockup. And then in K390, outcuts everything. It's not quite your Rex 121s as far as edge retention, but it's up there. But where I really like K390 is it doesn't chip. When you get into those high 60s, they're a little bit more brittle. K390 is not that brittle. I mean, you can really cut with it. And when it comes to its hardness versus its brittleness, I think it's probably number one.
Yeah.
So K390 is a special steel.
So if you're doing basically any work that you would reasonably do with a folder, you can count on that K390 to hold up to it.
Right. And I know I've said this in the past, but we even put serrations on it because it's not that brittle. So to come up with a Rockwell that hard and then put teeth on it, it is quite a feat. So yeah, K390 continuing to push that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a teeth question. Is that like a known issue? I'd never thought that maybe with serrations, those teeth will break off if you use them too hard.
Oh yeah, definitely on a brittle steel. I remember we made a steel called ZDP 189, usually Rockwell in the 67 range. But yeah, we made some of those in teeth. I remember cutting with it, and the teeth just chipped off because I was cutting something really hard one day. And so yeah, you get into these brittle steels, and you get into teeth, you have to watch that. But to take that further, one thing I really love is our best edge retention of anything we've ever tested. This is above Rex 121. Is our serrated H2 or H1.
Really?
Yeah, that
is so funny.
It is.
That's such a tough steel.
Right. It's such a tough steel. When you think about plain edge, man, it's probably got the worst edge retention in plain edge. That's why what makes MagnaCut so nice is not only is that great edge retention, but it's corrosive resistant at the same time. When you add corrosive resistant steels, usually that edge retention starts to go down. And so, in serrated, because we're able to get those teeth. Now, you can debate how we get those teeth to the level we do. I think of it as almost work hardening. I know that when people look at work hardening, they're thinking hammer, and they're going to pound it in, and they're going to work harden that. But what's happening with our H2 is the grinder is starting to change some of that material from an austenitic state to a martensitic state through heating it through the grinders.
It's almost like annealing.
And in some ways, but when the sheet is formed, and then you form the double disc and the bevel grind, and every operation works on that specific area. So oftentimes, if you look at your H2, it's going to be different hardnesses at different spots in the blade, depending on how you worked the blade. That's kind of why I oftentimes think about work hardening, because we're kind of doing it with our grinders, and we're doing it through the fabrication. Well, when you do the teeth, when you're plunging that steel and you're regrinding those teeth, it's really changing that formula along the teeth. And so serrated H2 outcuts everything.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I would never
Fun stuff.
guessed.
Yeah.
Man.
All right, so there's a little fun in H2 and MagnaCut.
Okay, so next up we have
Techno 3.
I was gonna say, I'm getting techno vibes, but
Yeah.
I've never seen something quite like this.
So Techno 3, designed by Marcin Swish from Poland. Pleasure to work with. He did the Swish Buoy, the Spidey Chef, some of Spyderco's more popular knives.
We missed the Swish Buoy, by the way.
Yeah, you can find it in various exclusives here and there once in a while. But having that said, it's a beautiful piece. It has its 3D titanium handle, so all machined it out, all fastened it. It's got an XHP blade. Personally, I'm a big fan of XHP. Gosh, I feel like every steel's my favorite.
Yeah.
But having that said, D2 as a kid, it was always one of my favorites. And then they made it a powdered stainless. And so, XHP is just a wonderful steel. I love using them on Swish's knives. And then it's got ball bearing washers. And then it's an integral lock with a custom clip. It's just, if you know Marcin Swish's knives, it's a great next level for him. Beautiful piece.
Yeah, man. One thing I like about this knife is you remind us here that the round hole isn't just an opener. It's a mark of Spyderco.
Right.
Here, you probably couldn't do the Spidey flick or whatever with that, but you open that up, you still know right off the bat, that's a Spyderco.
Yeah, it's our trademark. A lot of people like the Jeep grill. That's Jeep's, trademark, like the Coca-Cola bottle. We have a look. One of the things I like to point out in this, especially, we paid attention to this in the factory, is this bevel through here. It's a nice thin, see how thin the edge is there? And so, if you're going to be a slicer and you're not going to go all the way to the top on a smaller knife, can you get a thinner bevel in there for better cutting? So Marcin does a wonderful job in that, and I think we did a fairly good job of executing that.
Don't be humble. You did it perfectly, and we know it. Yeah, that is a paper thin edge. That's got to be like maybe 10 thou behind the edge.
It might be, 10, 14, I'm guessing. I'd have to grab the caliper, but it's probably right in there.
Yeah, I mean, my eyes are only so good of calipers.
Yeah.
Man,
Yep.
very well done there. And then lastly, it looks like we got a couple of things from the overseas made line.
Right, so the Tenacious, one of Spyderco's classics. You know, we've been making this knife for 15 years. It's one of the hardest working knives we make. So it is a Chinese knife. It's got a full flat double distal taper, open construction, 4-way clip, reeve integral lock, all those kind of things you look for, except this one's blue anodized. Nice up tick to a hard working piece.
So I've had a Tenacious before. I ended up giving it away to a very good friend because I had a pair of 3 that I would carry instead. But it was a liner lock. I haven't seen many Tenacious integral locks in my day.
Yeah, we're excited for that. If you're looking for bang for the buck, Tenacious is hard to beat in general. And then if you're just trying to make it a little bit nicer, you can throw that Reeve integral lock. I always think of Reeve integral because of Chris Reeve. I always like the integral though, because when you're holding that knife, particularly as a right-handed person, you're engaging that lock even further.
You're pushing it further in.
You are. So if you're looking for a good hard working knife, you know, though it's a beautiful piece, it's a worker at the same time.
Yeah. Now, I know you've thought of this because you've always thought of everything on knives, but what I like is how the pocket clip lands on the border of the grind line here that allows the piece to move. So that way you aren't pushing down on the lock bar when you're using it. So you're not going to get a weird detent.
Yep.
Like many frame locks do the same.
Yeah, where that clip lands on a frame lock is a big deal. Actually, one of the things I love about this knife too, the screws are pushed out and they're wide, so it has that big platform. If you're gonna be looking for a work knife that's really nice, you're not gonna walk by and catch it on something and break those screws off very easily. That wide mount is nice for a clip. Like you might see that on like the military model, not quite as wide. But yeah, how wide is that mount? You can see big difference in that mount, and so yeah, very strong. And then the placement, the clip, the Reeve integral bends in, and then the clip is still sitting on the line, which is okay because when you do go to close that, you get that full surface area. So yeah, those are things we pay attention to.
You've thought of everything. I'm sure there's a million other things we could do.
Yeah, I could talk about stuff like that all day.
Yep. And then lastly, we have this maroon flavor.
It's kind of, maroon, purple, black.
What are we calling it?
I think it's purple and black. I really don't remember exactly the color they're calling it, but I want to show something.
Okay.
We're doing the whole family, so lots of different knives in it. And it's going to be kind of a purple-black CTS BD1, or PD1, I'm sorry.
PD1. Okay, tell me about that steel.
PD1 is almost the same as Crewwear. You might have some little nuances or the chemistry differences because it's made in a different foundry, but you're essentially dealing with that Crewwear grade, but made by Carpenter. So big fan of Carpenter steels.
XHP.
Yep, XHP. I find their grain structure is really clean, really consistent in their manufacturing, a little bit easy to fabricate. I really appreciate a lot of those CTS steels. So if you like Crewwear, you're certainly going to like your PD1.
Yep, very nice and tough, great edge retention as well.
Right, and then if you know these knives, they have all the classic features that make Spyderco who we are.
Yep, and my favorite thing, these are the best lockbacks in the world because of this. Dink!
Yeah.
Never cut your finger because you put that thing just where it needs to be to just land on your finger and not cut you.
And it is a sprint run. All these PD1 purples are a sprint run, so they'll likely
get them while they're
go
around.
Quick, right?
Man,
and they're going to be delivering pretty soon. I think in the next week or two, the first ones start going out.
Okay, so if you like what you see there, I would recommend hopping on BladeHQ.com and making sure you get them because Spyderco sprint runs always go fast.
They sometimes, they tend to.
Yeah, in fact, those Rex 121s, those ones I think are already gone in some places.
Yeah, that's not a sprint though. That's a regular production.
What?
Yeah.
You're doing regular production, Rex
regular
121?
production.
Oh my goodness.
And we're making it in G10. So it comes in light. I didn't have the G10 sample to show off, but we will have a burnt orange G10 version as well.
Okay, man, you have been busy over at the Spyderco factories.
Yeah, we're a lot of colors, a lot of steels. Looking forward to some of the new models coming in the future, but we're staying busy.
Okay, well, thank you so much for making
thank
time
you.
for us.
I appreciate
It's
it.
always a pleasure to pick your brain and learn something new about knives every
Yeah,
single time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and thank you all for watching. This is Blade Show 2024. Make sure you're subscribed to Blade HQ to see all the cool content. Find all these Spyderco knives and more at bladehq.com, and we'll see you next time.